And yeah, pleased to welcome David and Ross today to talk about how they've implemented simpler recycling for workplaces. Before I hand it over, I just wanted to extend an invitation to attendees on this call. So if you represent a workplace, you're a waste collector or a local authority, it'd be great to work with you on how we can share your examples of implementation of simple recycling, whether that's a speaking opportunity in this forum, or working together on a written case study for publication. And then also just to quickly note that we throughout this year we've published and updated our guidance available on gov.uk and also in partnership with WRAP on the Business of Recycling website. It's really important to us that we continue to improve on these resources. So we'd really welcome your feedback on this guidance or in particular any other kind of support mechanisms or other ways that you would like to see DEFRA and WRAP support you as workplaces or waste collectors with the requirements. And that's in particular as we look to ahead to the implementation date for microforms in March 2027. So if either of those are of interest to you, it'd be great to hear from you. And you can reach the team at recycling@defra.gov.uk. I'm sure we can share that email address in the kind of the questions that are shared at the end of this session. But yeah, that's everything from me. So I'll hand over to David now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and let me just start today by saying thanks to Aaron, to Joe, to the team at DEFRA for inviting us to present today, ironically, through the exact link that Aaron's just spoken to you all about. And good afternoon, season's greetings to everyone who's obviously attending the session. So my name is David Gudgeon. I'm the Head of External Affairs at Reconomy, and I'm fortunate to be joined by Ross Mendenhall, who's the Group Operations Director at Extra Motorway Services. Look, for businesses, simpler recycling has obviously been up and running for several months now, and yes, it has been challenging at times, but seeing the industry kind of coming together to support businesses to overcome some of these challenges has been incredibly rewarding. Simpler recycling is important because recycling, I often describe it as it shouldn't feel like solving a puzzle, right? We're human, so when systems are complicated, I believe that people are more likely to make mistakes. And those mistakes, they lead to contamination, they lead to wasted resources, they lead to higher costs. Fundamentally, simpler recycling for me was written to try and make clear rules, consistent standards, and to give confidence that the waste that we place into the bin is actually being recycled. In the year leading up to the go live for simpler recycling, I think I spent a massive amount of time reading through the legislation, but the question that came up time and time again when I was talking to customers related to waste being separated by the public on business premises. I genuinely believe that it's easier to create a kind of a recycling-led culture in the workplace when it comes to your employees and their behaviour. But experience tells me that the same can't always be said when it comes to the public. And I'm certainly not here today to bash behaviour change techniques, because the fact is, I think they're brilliant. But what Ross and I are here to do is just to try and talk to you about an alternative strategy for managing public waste in some settings. And, a strategy that fundamentally it removes confusion, it's removed the need for everyone then to be able to play their part in creating a circular economy. We've taken some of that burden away from the individual consumers. If we can make recycling easy, then ultimately we're maximizing both the economic and the environmental benefit, and that's a win for businesses, it's a win for communities, and of course it's a win for the environment. If I can ask you to move on, please. Thank you. So look, the published guidance that you can see on screen here is really clear, right? For most of you will know pretty much what this says. If you provide bins to customers and visitors to use, you need to separate the materials before they're collected by a registered waste carrier. Now, Extra, like many others, have been buying bins like the one that's on the screen that I took a photo of recently. And for the climate conscious among us, I'm sure that you will place your waste in the right sections, the right compartments of these bins. But the guidance does tell us that if materials are significantly contaminated, then ultimately we have to treat it as general waste. I'm now going to hand you over to Ross, that's going to tell you a little bit about what Extra have been doing to remove these bins at their Beaconsfield Services site on the M40. So if you can move on slides and hand over to Ross, please.
Hi everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. It's not every day I get to do this kind of thing. So I'm the Operations Director at Extra Motorway Service Area Group, and you probably all know what a motorway service area does. But for those that don't, we are a critical safety infrastructure asset as a safety rest stop for people travelling on the strategic road network, the motorways. So we predominantly we are the travel sector for the roads, and everything that we sell from fuel to the food and beverage is all on the go, which poses a lot of problems. Now for Extra, we serve across 8 locations 26 million people a year, and that's just a huge number, and it comes with its challenging attributes in regard to simpler recycling. So for me, the journey towards more effective recycling was not really just about compliance or meeting targets that we set for ourselves. It was about fundamentally rethinking how we interact with our waste, how we either enable or divert some behavioural change so that we could deliver real tangible benefits for our communities, our customers, and also our bottom line. So simply recycling, it's simple, right? Why is it so hard? That's what I've been finding and asking myself questions over and over again for a few years now. Well, I think I needed a new strategy. What can I do to change the way that this works for us in our business particularly? So when considering those challenges facing our sector in travel, I recognised that sort of incremental changes wouldn't really suffice, and the traditional model of just bins scattered through our food court, amenity buildings and car parks, even with a move away from those traditional bins into recycling separator bins that you've just seen, was not delivering anywhere near the type of results that we wanted due to contamination. We were seeing confusion among customers, but yeah, the significant amount was cross-contamination of recyclables by high volumes of the public that simply put just didn't care enough to bother. So I think it's important to recognise that people naturally have a deeper sense of care and responsibility for the places that they call home. I call it you love where you live, and have a lot of things going on in life, and they've got thoughts in their mind about their final destinations. So they don't really care too much in the transient spaces as they pass through. And they tend to have the out of sight and out of mind attitude. And it becomes just too easy for individuals to neglect recycling responsibility during their journeys. And that's my truth. That's what I've seen year in, year out. So not only that, it bore a significant operational burden for us in managing emptying bins, trying to separate and segregate waste. So it became really clear to me that a real bold decision or set of decisions was needed that would make it a bit more intuitive and effective for everybody. So I looked at 2 areas, and the first of that was transforming our food court waste management. So the first major change that we made was the complete removal of all bins within the food court seating area where people sit down to eat and drink. And that was all of the standard type bins and the separator bins too. So I'm a big fan of controlling your controllables, and this was not in control. So I wanted to remove control away from customers and segregate the waste on their behalf. So we introduced that framework based on separation at source, and we provided trolleys for customers to place all of their waste on, no matter what type of waste it was, and then our employees then take responsibility for sorting that waste at a purpose-built recycling facility within the food court, and that's exclusively used by our own employees. So that approach fundamentally shifted the burden and the responsibility for the correct separation from customers to our trained staff. It simplified the recycling process for those customers, because, you know, I reiterate, we did find a lot of confusion over what to do with what type of waste. And it just ensures that recyclable materials are properly recovered. So it allows us to monitor and refine our processes continuously, because, you know, we don't always get it right every single day, but we are driving up recycling rates and reducing overall waste tonnage. And what I found personally quite astonishing in truth was the amount of contamination and the weight that we were saving by being able to pour waste liquid from drinks. So, you know, if you think McDonald's is a big producer of Coke and what have you, a lot of ice in there, and people waste an incredible amount of that liquid, and it was all just being compacted and sludged up in with all dry mix recycling, and it weighs a lot. You know, we were removing 10 litres of liquid every 15 minutes from our food court. If you annualize that, that is huge tonnage, so saving huge amounts of cost as well. But also, you know, we're talking about bottom line. You might have questions in your mind now. Well, that must be extremely labour intensive. Well, what I did was really had a look at sort of time and motion of our people and worked out that they were not making the most efficient use of their time. So we've been able to solve this and separate this waste without putting one extra hour into the business, without any more stress on workload for employees. We've just reshaped the way they work, and it's been a huge success. So with the employees as well, that gives them a huge sense of belonging and responsibility when they showed their success rates in the data, which David will present shortly. And then the second area was rethinking our external waste, the waste in the car park. So I made a decision there, and it was quite brave. I was getting all sorts of comments that, quite frankly, I was a bit crazy to do such a thing, and the car parks would end up covered in litter. But in truth, the results were quite surprising and quite transformative, really. I went down the line of behaviour. Well, if you're a litterer, you're a litterer, and if you're not, you're not. You're going to go and find a bin or take it with you to find one elsewhere. So some of the results that we've seen there, customers began returning their waste into the food court, placing it on the trolleys for our staff to separate, which is all good news. Some customers have chose to just take their waste with them in their vehicle, which further supports our own sustainability goals, and we would assume that they take that home or to their workplace and dispose of it responsibly there. The absence of bins in the car park led to a real noticeable decrease in vermin through the car parks, as there was no longer contaminated waste left outside. The time that our staff previously spent emptying external bins was now reallocated to waste separation during litter picks, because we do get people that litter, obviously, but they can now spend more time separating all of that litter picking activities as well, which again increases our data and recycling. So, genuinely, the level of littering did not increase, and it has not increased. And some of our sites where we've put this into place has been in operation for over a year now, and it's not creating a new set of litterers, which is a real positive. And then we also achieved a lot of cost savings through the reduced need to purchase bin bags, which is just another added win. So, the decisions we've made were quite bold, quite different, but they've all thus far been very successful. So for my customers, the changes have made real differences to them. It's made recycling effortless and clear. Plonk it all here and we'll deal with it for you. There's no confusion anymore over what bin to use or what can and can't be recycled. So their role is as simple as it can be. And then our staff, as I've said, handle the rest. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at and the impact that we've made so far. So thank you for listening, and I'll hand you back over to David to give you some of the data.
Perfect, thank you, Ross. So look, now that Ross has talked to us all and walked us all through the process that Extra followed, I just really want to show you this slide, because the decisions that were made are only as good as the data behind them. Good decisions, they're not just about making the right call, they're about proving it. And in today's world, trust and accountability matter more than ever. Extra, they want to know that the choices that they've made are based on facts, not assumptions, because data then gives us the proof. Without the evidence, even the best decisions in the world can look like nothing more than educated guesswork. So this chart clearly demonstrates the impact of our actions. It validates our strategy and it helps us learn what works and how we can go about replicating it elsewhere. So we've taken a snapshot of some data from before Beaconsfield Services made any of these changes, and the average recycling rate at a motorway service station at Beaconsfield was just 18%. And if I can just ask you to click on a tiny bit, that's perfect, thank you. So you then see that when we removed forecourt bins in April of 2024, the recycling rate doubled overnight. And it does fluctuate on a monthly basis, as you'd expect. No two trading months are exactly the same, but it does average out now at 36%. This clearly you can see through the slightly goldy yellow line, quite a kind of a settling period over the year that followed. But the moment that Ross removed the car park bins, and that was obviously done at the start of this year, you can see that it really pushes the trajectory onwards and upwards even further. And that's huge, because when we use data to demonstrate success, we build confidence, we build credibility, and we help create this culture of continuous improvements, because, as I said, decisions backed with data aren't just defensible, they are transformative. Now, look, what we've spoken about today is perfect in motorway service areas. Is probably really supportive for people if you're, shopping centres with food courts and various bits and bobs. I'm not advocating and saying this is perfect in every setting, but it is an important story that we wanted to tell you about. And if I can just ask you to move on to the last slide, please. Sorry. I think what's important and what I wanted to finish on is actually what Aaron started on today, and that's reminding everybody about the Business of Recycling website. It's got sector-specific simpler recycling guides, and I think they're a really valuable resource. We'll obviously be submitting and are in the process of writing a case study specific to this project, and what I'd say is that I encourage you to support wrap and support DEFRA in making simpler recycling simple. You know, if you're delivering brilliant solutions, and I do see loads of them in our industry, if you're delivering these brilliant solutions that are demonstrating best practice for a sector, then please don't hold on to all of that knowledge, share it so that together we can all deliver a truly circular economy. And I think for us, if I'm right, that should be the end of our slides.